Welcome back from break, everyone. We're going to get going on our next segment. It is an honor to have with us today Miss Erica Slayton as our first financial wellness speaker. As a veteran supporter of our KeySpouse engagements, we always appreciate her being here with us. Ms. Slayton has been serving as Director of Military Community Support Programs for Military Community and Family Policy since November of 2021. Ms. Slayton is responsible for the oversight of Military OneSource, Military and Family Life Counseling, and the Spouse Education and Career Opportunities Program. All of those working to increase quality of life for military families. Today, she is going to shed some light on economic security, which is one of the many items her office has been championing and will shed some light on us today for us today. So thank you for taking time out of your very busy schedule to be here with us today, ma'am. The floor is yours.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Andrea, for that warm welcome. I am always excited when I have the opportunity to be a part of engagement series and forums like this. It's such a pleasure. Before I start, I do want to encourage you. My boss is Mrs. Patty Barron, who is the Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Military Community and Family Policy. And she served in this role yesterday and talked about the very issues that I'm going to talk about today. But you will definitely want to go back and check out that recording when it is available. And right off the bat, you are going to note her passion for service members and their families. And she challenges us through military community and family policy to explore the art of the possible through our programs and policies. So I know you're going to be very glad that you tuned in to see what she has to say. And before I dive into MCNFP and our mission, I do want to thank you. Thank you for everything that you do. I have worked closely with family readiness volunteers throughout my career, and I know firsthand that you are trusted agents, you're educators, and you're advocates for families. I am also a spouse of a retired Marine, and I can tell you, we experienced our fair share of financial struggles as a young couple with twins. And so, as Mrs. Barron said yesterday, we've all been there. And I want to thank you for everything that you have done and will do to support the KeySpouse program. Okay, let me dive into MCNFP here. So within military community and family policy, our job is to make sure that all of the quality of life policies and programs for our service members and families are at their best. And you'll see on this slide all of the various offices that are involved in MCNFP, many key programs for our military families, like the ones I lead that you've already heard about, like Military OneSource, the Spouse Education and Career Opportunities Program, and the Military and Family Life Counseling Program. But today, I really want to make sure that you know about some key programs and initiatives that help ensure our service members and families are finding healthy, productive ways to cope with the financial stress that we in the Defense Department are working to find real solutions. So let's go to the next slide here. I want you to know that economic security for our service members and their families is crucial to supporting the recruitment, retention, and readiness of the force. And so you'll see on the next slide here that it is quite a challenge. We're dealing with housing shortages, food insecurity, childcare provider shortages, high gas prices. And I don't know if your household was like mine, but I was like, that truck needs to sit in that driveway for a minute because it's just too expensive. But we're also dealing with military spouse employment. We have done that for several years, and financial readiness. And so this means that our service members and their families are feeling pressure. And I don't know about you, but I don't like pressure. I don't like stress, because stress can cause relationship problems, mental and physical health issues that can detract and compromise the force. And we don't want that. So if we go to the next slide here, I want to tell you, it is a very complex issue, but we are all in. We are taking a look at our policies and programs, but guess what? It's going to take more than new programs and policies. We, as a department are mobilizing our leadership and resources to help those in need find solutions. So what does all in mean? It means education. It means encouraging help seeking at all levels and ensuring that we're identifying the needs and supporting individuals and families who are in need. We are so committed to taking care of airmen and guardians, and that includes addressing some issues, many of the issues that I've already talked about, like finding quality childcare, military spouse employment, and affordable food and housing that people are facing every day. I hope that you have read the Taking Care of Our People memo that Secretary Austin released in September. It aims to put money back into service members and families' pockets. And I'll just talk just about a few. Again, I encourage you to go check out the memo. But it starts with a pay increase for our service members beginning in January of 2023. You'll read about the commissary benefit in which we're looking at lower prices across the board on grocery items at commissaries and exchanges. It also includes an increase in basic allowance for housing. It also includes support around the PCS, in which there's an increase in the dislocation allowance for certain grades. And also it impacts our childcare programs. The department is making significant investments in child development program facilities and infrastructure to further expand our capacity to provide quality childcare and improving access to childcare programs and resources such as the military child care in your neighborhood. Hope you've heard of that, and expanding in-home child care fee assistance. I mean, it's just going to be crucial to supporting our military families. So lots going on. I encourage you to go to the Taking Care of Our People landing page, which you see here, which is www.militaryonesource.mil/people. We launched it in September. And this landing page addresses the 4 priorities to benefit military families, including basic needs, easier moves, family support, and spouse employment. There are tons of fact sheets there for service members, spouses, and leaders. It includes links to a number of resources. And, and one of those resources includes the Military Leaders and Economic Security Toolkit. But I want to tell you that the leader part of it, the leader means leader as a key spouse as well. So I encourage you to go check it out. You can go to this landing page, provide your email address, and receive email updates as information comes available. So I'm going to travel to the next slide here, which speaks to our Military Leaders Economic Security Toolkit, which is available on militaryonesource.mil. And again, you can use this toolkit to support service members who may be at risk for economic security. That includes those facing challenges with food security, housing availability, and financial well-being. And, I was thinking about financial security and well-being, and it brought me back to many times where I don't know if you've had this experience, but for me, didn't know how to handle my finances very well. And I took care of all the finances for our military home. There are several times I had to call home and I had to ask for extra money to buy diapers. Or I remember times when I know we had overextended ourselves paying back student loans and credit cards. And so I don't know, if you know that saying, if I only knew back then what I know now, I would have been much better off. And so I'm so glad that this Key Spouse Engagement Series exists to bring this toolkit and so many other resources to bear so that you can use them as you support others. So we're going to go to the next slide here. And this speaks to our community resource finder. If service members and families need community resources, this is a great resource. I encourage you to check it out. It gives thousands of resources to allow you to connect faster to various resources. You'll see all of them here, from education to spouse and family. All of these resources have been vetted. They're military family friendly, and they are either free or at no cost. So I encourage you to check out the Community Resource Finder. We're always adding resources, and sometimes removing resources as well, as they maybe aren't doing the things that we would like for them to do, or maybe don't live up to our service members and families' expectations. So we'll go to the next slide here. And I just want to encourage you again, you've heard about so many resources here, but as far as the financial well-being of our service members and families, I do want to remind you about the wide range of resources that we offer through the department, including Military One Source that provides consultations and coaching on many aspects of military life. Our job really is to ensure that our service members and families have all the resources they need to thrive. I encourage you to check out the links here and get involved. And on the next slide, it's going to show you some of the ways that you can get involved. And we encourage you to do so. There's so many experts that have created programs that are here to support everything from how to take care of a newborn to reducing grocery bills every month. So you might ask, Erica, how can I help? Well, let me tell you how you can help. You'll see a variety of ways. I encourage you to go to militaryonesource.mil. Get familiar with all of the financial well-being resources. Our tools can help you talk with service members and families about financial security and literacy. And I want to remind you that we augment the support that our military services provide. And so as an augmentee, we are an extension of installation services. So we encourage you to go and check out these resources. Consider sharing your story through our blog brigade. You might encourage another spouse to either get involved or say, hey, you know what, maybe I do need to seek help and reach out to a counselor. So I want you to spread the word. So many resources that are available. Again, I want to just thank you so much. Our social media platforms are there. Please stay tuned into our social media platforms. There's a lot there. And the last slide here, you've seen it before, is our range of support. And I just want to let you know that the department is here to support you in every aspect of military life. Thank you for everything that you do. Andrea, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Thank you so much, Miss Slayton. You are so right. If I knew then what I know now is something that I think we can all relate to. And I think that's a great reason for us to have these engagements, because as key spouses, we can first of all empathize that we have been there. We've experienced some of the same issues that others are experiencing, right? Then we can share the support and the resources needed to help. And so thank you for sharing. We appreciate your leadership and advocacy to ensure military families have the financial resources they need to be well and prosper. While Ms. Slayton is working hard on initiatives at the Department of Defense level, there are also Department of the Air Force and installation level resources available. Our next speaker, Ms. Sharon Lisby, Program Analyst at Airmen and Family Operations Branch, AFPC, works to ensure airmen, guardians, and families have financial training and education available, and that it's good. She's here to tell us more about it and give us some financial tips. So Ms. Lisby, take it away.
Hello, everyone. As Andrea mentioned, I am the Program Analyst here at the Air Force Personnel Center at Randolph. And I just wanted to take this opportunity to talk to you a little bit about different tools and tips. And you may have heard some of these before. You may be aware of them, or, maybe you've forgotten about them because you get so much information. But, we just wanted to go over a few things with you to remind you. So right now, as was mentioned in the previous briefing, I mean, the economic times right now are very hard, and I'm sure you're feeling the impact of that, as we all are. And these are some things that maybe can help lighten that load a little bit for you, and hopefully help you to share with the other spouses as well and help them out too. So things that we wanted to discuss today, it all pertains to the military family life cycle. And just three of the ones that are the biggest kind of hit to the wallet that we see. So first, we're going to talk about preparing for a new child, right? That is a lot of stress and a lot of changes. And being in the military just adds some extra layers to that can complicate things a little bit further. And so there are some things that can kind of help alleviate that financial stress. And the first thing is the Military and Family Readiness Center. They have certified financial counselors on hand, and usually a contractor also. So more than one person to help you financially, and they can kind of help prepare a spend plan, make plans for the future, give you resources, anything you need to help prepare financially for your new child. They're there for you. And then also at the MNFRC is, of course, Bundles for Babies, and that's a great first step for you or for anybody who's expecting. It's a class, and it's held at the MNFRC, and it contains briefers from the medical group, from the new parent support program, maybe legal, any other pertinent organizations that can help prepare for the new addition. It's a really good class to go to and get started, kind of give people an idea of what to plan for. The other services that maybe are in your local area are maybe thrift stores, parenting groups, and get out there, get connected to kind of help not just alleviate financial burden, but alleviate the stress, right? And then there's the new parent support program, and the MPSP will offer free parenting classes, and it varies per base, but I mean, it's different kind of parenting classes. And again, all of these things are free. So take advantage of these, have the spouses that are expecting, take advantage of these. It's just a really great way to prepare without spending a lot of money. Now the new parent support program, you have to contact the Family Advocacy Center and they can get you connected with that program. That's how you get connected with that. Some other things that are not necessarily military specific, but we also encourage our spouses to look into is the Women, Infant, and Children, the WIC program, and then the Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program, or SNAP. We always encourage everybody to try to see if they're approved, let them tell you no kind of thing. You never know if you qualify or not, so I would always ask the question first. And then, of course, childcare. Again, that was mentioned a few minutes ago. We know that childcare is a huge stressor for everybody, and particularly for military families. And in that, taking care of military and families memo that came out that was spoken about earlier, the DoD did pledge to expand the coverage of the CDC's hours and availability and kind of cut down on the wait list as possible. And also they're going to bring out some new initiatives to kind of recruit quality candidates to work at the CDC. So they are trying to kind of make those stressors a little less for the military members. The best thing to do is to, of course, go to the Child Development Center, figure out what the fees are, figure out how long the wait list is, but they also have information about other child care options that may be available to you in the local area. So now we're going to transition over to permanent change of station. Thank you. PCS, we all love the PCS, and it does definitely change your finances, and it does kind of hit the wallet a little bit. But again, MNFRCs are financial counselors that I mentioned earlier. They are here standing by, ready to help you, ready to plan, see if you need to save before you PCS, but also they can do a comparison. So they can look at what your budget looks like now, and then what it's going to look like at your new location, and kind of tell you how things are going to change, because the course pay is different. BAH, BAS, that kind of thing, not BAS, but BAH is different depending on where you're going to be. So they can do that comparison so that you can better prepare financially for that move. Also, military and family readiness centers, of course, have relocation assistance programs, and that program can offer workshops before and after you PCS, and they can also connect you with resources that you're gaining installation, and maybe you need some that you're losing installation as well. It's their job to help connect you to those resources. And it is absolutely okay for you guys to reach out to your gaining base, to the MNFRC there, and get more resources from them as well. All of those things, getting connected to those agencies before and after you move, that helps make your move more smooth, right? I also recommend making an appointment if employment is something that is important to you. and you want to work, I would make an appointment with the MNFRC employment team, because they can kind of give you an outlook on what the employment situation is, where you're headed, and kind of help you prepare for that. Of course, they can help with resumes and referrals and that kind of thing. But also they can talk to you about license portability. If you have a certification in something or a credential, they can talk to you about that portability, and they can also give you a heads up on what fees and what costs may be associated with that, depending on the state you're going to. Another thing to think about before you move and talk to the financial counselor about is whether you might qualify for unemployment. Again, that's something that's different in every state, but the financial counselor should be able to tell you if you qualify and then make that connection, help you get a connection to the unemployment resources soft base. Okay, now we're going to talk about pay and allowances. I know that's the big one, right? So I saw in the poll earlier that of all the websites that you go to, only 10% said that they go to the Defense and Accounting Service website, the DFAS website. I would highly encourage you to up those numbers, because they actually have some great pages that talk about the different pay in different situations. And especially when you're PCSing, there's so many different types of pay, and that DFAS website kind of breaks it down. And I think sometimes we think DFAS is only for service members, but spouses can go and read what different allowances are meant for different things without having to log in. You can look at that. So again, earlier, that memo that was talked about, they talked about helping ease the stress of a PCS, right? And the temporary lodging expense and the dislocation allowance are two of the things that DoD has kind of worked on to help make it easier to move. So typically, the TLE, the temporary lodging expense, is for service members to pay for meals and lodging for them and their families during a PCS. And typically, they only get 14 days per move. But now, because of that memo, if you move to a location where the housing market is very, very rough, you can actually stay in that TLE for up to 60 days. So they've kind of increased that a little bit to help ease that burden. And then also DLA, which is for when you actually move into your new residence, that is to help supplement the cost of moving into the new location. All right, and finally, we're going to talk about deployment. And we'll talk about how to ease the burden on your wallet a little bit there. So while the service members deployed, of course, there are programs out there to kind of help the family members and the spouses. And one of those is Give Parents a Break. And that is a great program where you get free childcare, usually up to 6 hours at the CDC. And typically it's held once a month. It's different on every base. So I would call the CDC and ask how they do the program there. Definitely would look into that during deployment. And then the other thing is the Service Member Civil Relief Act, and that's the SCRA. And that is something that it can really, really help lighten the load when maybe you're having a harder time making ends meet while your service member's deployed. So for the Service Member Civil Relief Act, we would encourage you to call all of your creditors and ask them to lower the interest rates during the deployment. And that can be very, very helpful. And then also the other thing is to call insurance companies, all right? Because maybe nobody's driving your car or the service member's car while they're deployed. And that is something that you may be able to lower the insurance on, and then you save a little bit of cash. But also I would call your insurance and I would ask them if they cover what the service member is taking with them on deployment. And that can include backpacks or laptops or any other things that they're taking with them. And if the insurance covers that, that can really, really be helpful if something happens during the deployment, or if maybe a mishap happens while in transit or something like that, it'll cover the cost of those items. So it's a very, very helpful thing to call the insurance company and ask for that. So in conclusion, the most important thing to remember is the Military and Family Readiness Center has certified financial counselors on staff. And the reason why that's the most important, most biggest money-saving tip is that on the outside, civilian financial counselors may charge up to $100 an hour, and you're getting it all for free. You get it for free, and every center has one. So definitely take advantage of that. They can help, I guess, again, with financial budgeting, or with training, or if you have questions about the thrift savings plan, home buying, estate planning, anything that's related to money, they can help you with. So definitely give them a call and have a seat with them. The resources that have been provided today, they can all help with helping prepare for your financial future. And one I wanted to highlight is the Military Spouse Money Mission. And the reason I want to highlight that is because they've got blogs, they've got videos, they've got a community page where you can interact with each other and ask questions. And again, it's just things like this that are free to you, that are helping you become richer every day. And that's all I have. Back to you, Andrea.
Thank you so much, Miss Lisby, for sharing all of those financial resources with us. In case you didn't know, for those of you on the line, kids, PCSs, and deployments can drain our patience and our pocketbooks. So I encourage you all to check out the resources she talked about. I think we have interest in making our money go a little bit further, and more than that, feeling like our finances are in good order can help us with our overall wellness, because it is just one less thing to stress about. So thank you, and check out those resources. That takes us into our final segment, our KeySpouse Best Practice panel, which will be facilitated by Ms. Denise Blount. Ms. Blount is a personal and work-life program manager at AFPC, Airmen and Family Operations Branch. So over to you, ma'am.
Awesome. Thank you, Andrea. I appreciate that. So good morning, good evening, everyone who is on from Oconus. We appreciate you guys being on. Wow. I mean, it has really been an amazing series so far. It's really been awesome. Lots of great information from the helping agencies, from our partners. We've learned so much about the resources that are available and the tools that are available to us. The key, right? The key is ensuring that members and families are aware of those resources, and really then, right, getting them to utilize those resources and tools that are available, because there are so many things out there. Well, our next panel is consists of KeySpouse and KeySpouse mentors, and they're going to provide us with motivations, testimonies, tips that will help reduce the stigma that may be preventing utilization of some of those tools and resources. Our first speaker is Miss Heather Campbell. Ms. Campbell is a KeySpouse mentor, and she serves in a variety of advisory and subject matter expert roles to organizations in the fight against military food insecurity. So I'm going to pass the floor over to you, Ms. Campbell.
Hi, yes, thank you so much for having me. Good morning. I would say good, bright and sunny morning, but this is all fake light that is shining on me here in Alaska. It is still dark. My sun won't be up for a couple of hours still. Again, thank you for having me. And I am a KeySpouse, and I want to talk a little bit about our experience with food insecurity and what I've learned about it, and the resources that are available to us as KeySpouses, and how we can be standing in the gap for our communities. When we were a young family, the first time we lived in Alaska, we had a couple of different things that just created a difficult situation, and we actually experienced food insecurity. Now, those of you who aren't familiar with that term, food insecurity is a lack of consistent access to enough food for every person in your household to live a healthy and active lifestyle. So it doesn't mean starving, it doesn't mean hungry, just means you're stressed about whether or not the dollars and the money are going to line up. And for us as a young family, we had a PCS, which we all know can be stressful. We were in a remote location, and I was unable to find employment. We had very young children and had another child while we were here, and our location was very expensive. And because of just a few loopholes, we didn't qualify for assistance like SNAP or for WIC or for anything else. And we had this feeling of, we're college educated. We have done all the right things. I'm a registered dietitian by trade, and I know pediatric nutrition and family nutrition. And we just had this feeling of, what are we doing wrong? And that snowballed through the stress of military life and through the stress of having a young family and financial difficulties, into ultimately thinking that we were doing something wrong, that there is a burden in our family. Marriage is hard, parenting is hard. All of those things must be hard because I wasn't doing something right. I should know how to do this. What am I doing wrong? I'm very clearly the problem in my family, and my family would be better if I wasn't part of it. This was a spiral of all of these different stressors linking together. And due to a few different things, I didn't feel like I could ask for help. And food insecurity wasn't a conversation that was happening 10 years ago. And what I've learned since then, not only is how to balance those finances and how to use local resources to help my family, but also how to start talking about this within my community, how to create conversations with fellow key spouses, with spouses on my installation, with spouses that I connect with virtually. Pandemic life sort of gave us that springboard into all of the virtual connection, and getting this opportunity to say, not only as a professional, hey, I'm a registered dietitian, I know a lot about this, but also here's my experience, here's what you should know, here's where some gaps are that other people might be falling through the same way that we did. And some of the things that I've learned about food insecurity, it is really complex because of all of the different ways that our pay in the military is calculated. There's BAH, and for us, OCONUS, there's COLA, and there's BAS and base pay, and all of these different things can go together to make it really complicated. And some parts of it count for income for things like assistance, like WIC, or which is Women, Infants, and Children. It's supplemental nutrition. So some states count it, some states don't. So there's a lot of inconsistencies that can make it difficult to understand where those resources are or whether or not you qualify. But one of the things that we can do as key spouses is make sure that we are educating ourselves on the things that we have Air Force wide, all of the things available at our MFRC, the counseling's available there, the financial resources, everything on Military One Source on the website. We have on Military One Source, there's an economic insecurity toolkit that will talk about food insecurity and different economic tools that you can use. You can connect with your local food banks. You can talk to your community members. You can talk to different nonprofits and learn what's available in your military community and your local community so that ultimately you can create that connection with the families in your units that you have an opportunity to serve. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Ms. Campbell. Thank you so much for sharing your story. I think it's so relatable to a lot of us out there. And there are so many resources now that are available to everyone. The key is just finding those and utilizing those. So thank you so much. We appreciate that. Our next speaker is Ms. Amy Seelix. And Ms. Seelix has been a military spouse and advocate for Department of Air Force families for the last 19 years. She is a key spouse and is passionate about the importance of morale for both members and their families, while advocating for greater family support with the hopes of strengthening the continued commitment to our guardians. Ms. Seelix, I'm going to turn the floor over to you.
Thanks, Denise. Good morning, everyone. I am the key spouse for the 328th Weapons School located at Nellis Air Force Base in Las Vegas, Nevada. For those that are unfamiliar, the Weapons Instructors Course, also known as WIC, is a rigorous 6-month-long course executed by the 328th Weapons Squadron under the training Delta 1. Also for reference, all weapons school graduates are referred to as patches. Unfortunately, due to the nature of this course, service members are separated from their families for an extensive period. Additionally, due to the intensity, frequent travel, and long hours, connection between students and their families is often strained. We are all aware of how challenging this lifestyle can be and the impacts that it not only has on our guardians, but on us spouses and families as well. When my husband went through the weapons school, I needed more support than I could have ever anticipated, both while he was a student and after he graduated. Shortly after graduation, he was sent on a short notice deployment, heavily impacting us all. I had little to no support from my husband's home unit when he was deployed, but thankfully, another spouse and her family stepped up and gave my boys and I the support we so desperately needed. From across the country, they were able to help us survive the separation and helped us not feel like outsiders or a burden to the Air Force. I told this spouse then that I didn't know how I would ever repay her for what her family had done for mine. Her response was to pay it forward. So when we knew we'd be coming back to the 328th as a family to instruct, I knew that there would be spouses and families who would be needing the same support I once found myself needing. An opportunity I saw was how to collectively care for each other based on our shared experience and to pay it forward. Weapons Family Supporters is a Facebook group I created consisting of fellow patch spouses who are committed to supporting weapons school students and their families as they go through WIC and during deployments. This group consists of like-minded spouses who set the standard for caring for one another to better the whole family unit and not just the member. Individuals who are actively participating and assisting in various levels of support when needed. Who see the need for change in ways that spouses and families are supported within the military and are willing to make their own efforts in changing the ways spouses take care of each other to build a stronger Space Force spouse using the span of our own influence. With each class, this group gains more traction and more ideas, more participants. After each class, the newly patched spouses now have the opportunity to join the supporters group and pay it forward for future student spouses and families of WIC. The support provided is simple. We reach out and ask, how are you doing? We send birthday cards and letters of encouragement, and we help coordinate assistance when spouses need it. By seeing and appreciating them for the sacrifices that they are making, they feel seen, wanted, and closer to their spouse, ultimately making them a stronger guardian unit. This group of spouses focuses on helping each other. By doing this, we are connecting with the student spouses and establishing a safe space right from the start, showing them that they're not only alone, showing them that they are not alone and giving them an open door so that if they need help, have questions, or just need to vent, they are comfortable in reaching out. Our group focuses on leaving each other feeling loved and included. This is my pay it forward, all because of the help that I received from one spouse. To wrap this up, I'd like to highlight that we as spouses are each other's biggest resource and advocate. And there is no one else who fully understands what we endure. I'd also like to share with you a message I received from one of our spouses who is supported to share what a small, simple gesture can do for a spouse. She had just delivered her second daughter while her spouse was going through weapons school, and we wanted to just celebrate and recognize that life-changing event that she had just gone through. Dear military family, thank you so very much for my gift card. There has not been a time since becoming a military spouse that I honestly felt supported and, quote, seen by other spouses until now. I deeply appreciate your care, love, and kindness surrounding my pregnancy. Thank you so very much. Love, Cottrell Green. Ms. Green is now one of our supporters and pays it forward to spouses and families who are going through WIC. Thanks, Denise. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Ms. Felix. I mean, support is really everything, right? We are there to support each other. And I couldn't help but notice a couple of times, you said the support is simple, a simple gesture, but to those spouses, that support is, I mean, amazing. Definitely not something simple for them. It means everything to the spouses. So we really appreciate what you do. And thank you for sharing with us. Our next, last but not least speaker, Miss Erin Leonard. Miss Leonard has been an Air Force spouse for over 22 years and has been a KeySpouse as well as a KeySpouse mentor at both the group and the wing levels. So I am going to pass it over to you, Miss Leonard.
Great. Thank you so much, Denise, for having us. And thank you, Heather and Amy, for sharing your truly impactful stories. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for this time with all of you to speak to our incredible KeySpouse community today. It really is an honor. So stigma is something we hear a lot about. And so I'm here to offer you some tips and advice on how we can break that through. As we know, the effects of stigma in seeking help can feel insurmountable. It can often amplify feelings of hesitancy in seeking help. It can often increase feelings of overwhelm, nervousness, increase anxiety, stress, and uncertainty. It may just feel super awkward or embarrassing to say, I need help. So it's up to each one of us in our military communities to do what we can to change the narrative around seeking help. As KeySpouses, many of us know the resources, as was spoken to a lot today, both on our installations and within our communities that provide help. But we are also keenly aware of their workload and how hard that access can be to attain. This, of course, makes receiving help exponentially more challenging. So, what can we do within our communities to support those seeking help, waiting for that help, and to reduce the stigma? Well, I have 5 best practices to share with you today, and I hope at least one of them resonates with you so you can take steps at your installation to help break through the stigma. Number 1, personal reflection. For you personally, Be aware of your own unconscious bias and judgmental thinking. We all have them. Naturally, unconscious biases are hidden, and you may not be aware of them. So take some time for reflection. Run through scenarios with a trusted person and try to identify some of these biases. This leads us to number 2. Words matter. Choose your words carefully. The way we speak can affect the attitudes of others. What we say and how genuine we are when we say it can make all the difference in helping to build trust, to communicate your desire to ensure they receive help, and to reduce that stigma. Remember, when they ask for help, they are trusting you with their feelings and situation. How do you respond can make a world of difference. Number 3, support people. Treat everyone with dignity and respect. Offer support and encouragement with a listening ear. Make the warm handoff every time if you can. Support can look different for everyone. Listen carefully for not only the obvious requests for help, but also for the unspoken needs. You may be able to support in ways that are not quickly identifiable. Number 4, resources. Be familiar with your resources and share them widely with a positive attitude. And learning your resources, challenge myths and stereotypes as you find the helpers. By this, I mean you may run into some resistance within your community. Be the voice for those who haven't yet asked for help, and help educate those who may create barriers without knowing it. And number 5, lead the change. Lead the change in your units. Work with your command to bring awareness to the units. Set up briefings for families, not just deployment related, but make it part of the regular conversation. Bring helping agency information to regularly established meetings, or even take a group field trip to the helping agencies. Here at the Air Force Academy, where we're currently stationed, I started a KeySpouse initiative to bring KeySpouses to the helping agencies or community resource locations each month. We started with a wing mission brief, and they had an hour with my husband for them to communicate directly with him to highlight areas where they need support as KeySpouses. Next, we're off to the med group to hear from our patient advocate. I have planned visits to our library, chapel, housing office, school liaison officer, local food banks, and other resources in the community. By going to the location of service and limiting the discussion to one topic, it makes the information digestible, and the resources are more likely to be used, making that warm handoff even easier. This KeySpouse community is truly amazing. I have seen time and time again how we are masters at leveraging our own talents and experiences to find ways to support our community. Remember to lean on each other, to brainstorm and collaborate in finding community resources. KeySpouses stand in the gap within our community. We see what others can't, and we can play a huge part in removing the stigmas faced when asking for help. Thank you so much for your passion for our military communities and for raising your hand to volunteer in this vital role. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Leonard. What a great way to wrap up the KeySpouse panel. You know, there's nothing that can't be accomplished when we work together and support each other. It all starts with us. And thank you all for sharing your stories, and we appreciate you taking your time to be with us today. I'm going to pass it over back to Miss Andrea.
Thank you, Ms. Blount, for leading the discussion, and Mrs. Campbell, Ms. Felix, and Mrs. Leonard for sharing your tips and testimonies. That was awesome. Thank you so much. As mentioned, all resources from today will be posted at the AFPC KeySpouse page, which can be found by following the link we've posted in the chat. We can post again in the chat, or Googling AFPC KeySpouse, and we'll make those available by early next week. Additionally, please hang around after comments from Mrs. Brown and Mrs. Saltzman. It would be really helpful if you could take a really quick 6 short question survey on how you felt this engagement went. The information that you provide will help us moving forward with our next series. And as you likely know, the KeySpouse program is in the midst of a reform based on feedback we've received from you, based on feedback from spouses, KeySpouses, and command teams, the program needs a new name. If you stick around to the very end, you'll have the first opportunity to vote on what that name will be. Spoiler alert, all these options are different than the ones you may have seen before. We believe these options best demonstrate the updated foundations of the program, which are readiness, resources, and connectedness. More to follow on the new KeySpouse program because first, we need a new name. You'll get the first chance to vote today, and then we'll make the chance available to a broader audience for the rest of the year. Get excited. With that, I'm now going to turn it over to Mrs. Brown and Mrs. Saltzman for closing remarks.
Hey all, wasn't that tremendous? Oh my goodness, my head is spinning with all that information. It's crazy busy and just so much available to us. So as Mrs. Saltzman said in the beginning, it's always great to hear from our experts. And today they did not disappoint. I am certain all of us have endured challenges throughout this pandemic. And I think those challenges encourage many of us to reflect on how we manage stress, including those stresses related to our personal finance. I appreciate the organizations across the Department of the Air Force, and as well as the Office of Secretary of Defense, the Military Community and Family Policy, have also taken a hard look at the stressors and personal finances and are identifying ways as to how to best support our families. It is evident from our wellness in body, mind, and wallet is in good hands with all the support and initiatives throughout the DAF. I would highly recommend going to the AFPC website just shared a few minutes ago for the complete list of resources mentioned here in this session. What an immense list of programs and resources. To our amazing Key Spouses, remember that knowing your resources is important, but taking steps to use those resources when needed is even more important. Helping to reduce the stigma of seeking help is invaluable, and your testimonies are powerful motivational tools for our families. Thank you for being outstanding representatives of the KeySpouse community and for carrying that torch of support. Mrs. Saltzman, I hope you enjoyed our discussions today. What are your thoughts on your first KeySpouse engagement?
My thoughts are, it's always such a pleasure. Thank you so much, Mrs. Brown and Andrea, for inviting me to participate with this. Just the wealth of information is amazing, and you always learn something new, which I always appreciate. All the initiatives and resources that are available to all of us to assist with our guardian and airman families. It's much appreciated, and helping each other is what everyone that is here today has spent and devoted so much time and energy and all of your talents to doing. And military families are amazing, and they're strong, they are resilient, and learning more tricks and techniques and resources that we can help each other out is always, always beneficial. So I appreciate it. Thank you to all the Key Spouses and family members and service members and whoever is out there joining in. I know we all learned a lot of new things, and Andrea, appreciate the time and the wonderful panels that you set up, because they were great. They were funny and engaging, and I too loved, I don't think I ever made a cookie during the pandemic, only the cookie dough. And I was like, I guess you could cook them, but they were pretty delicious raw. So I'm hoping to maybe stop that. So, and with that, hopefully we can all look forward to seeing you all soon, and be well. Thank you, Andrea. Appreciate it.
Thank you, ma'am. We are kindred cookie dough spirits, I guess.
Yes.
Thank you all for joining us. We'll stay on the line to note any additional questions. Please bookmark the AFPC KeySpouse page. I just shared it in the chat for more information on the KeySpouse program, past engagement series events, and follow-ups to this event. Naturally, we want your feedback on this session, and that is the first QR code. So please give us your feedback and then give us your vote on what the new name of the KeySpouse program will be. We hope to see you next time. Thank you.